where best friends and next-door neighbors, Willow and Lillian, spill the tea on murder, mysteries, and other things that go bump in the night. So get your favorite teacup ready, and let's get into it. Welcome to Cruelty Podcast. This is Lillian, and with me is Willow.
Hello.
Boy, I didn't know where I was for a minute.
You almost did a spoonerism there.
I don't know what a spoonerism is.
Where you mix the letters up. True, cree.
Oh, no, I don't do that. I do it all the time. No, I'm a brain soup.
Yeah.
I've had a day.
Mm-hmm.
It involved boats. That's all I'm saying. Let's move on.
All the sprinkles of no context, which we're not going to give.
Oh, no, absolutely. I'm never going to revisit this topic. Boats can go fuck themselves. It's not my boat either. Chew on that. Anyway, this month we are covering missing persons cases.
Mm-hmm.
They are unsolved, and they are interesting, and they are mysterious, and Willow picked a really good one that I'm very familiar with today, so take it away.
This
Willow.
one's borderline solved.
That's very exciting, because I've been waiting on this case to be solved.
Mm-hmm. As of recent years.
Ooh.
Oh, this case has so many twists and turns. This case really... Okay, so we're going to get into it. It is the missing persons case of Lauria Bible and Ashley Freeman. The two girls were just absolute best friends. They met in kindergarten and were inseparable ever since. They grew up in a small town of Welch, Oklahoma.
Yup.
Which apparently you know of.
I do.
Lauria Bible lived with her parents and older siblings. Her parents' names were Lorraine and Jay, and they lived on a small farm. And then Ashley lived with her parents, Kathy and Danny Freeman, and her older brother Shane. They lived in a small trailer home on their own land, like kind of in the adjacent town.
Yeah.
So at one point in time, the girls did live really close together, but as they grew up, they ended up moving apart. But they were still inseparable. Together 24/7. And they were rule girls. Like, they were good girls. They had, they made really good grades. They were in band. They were in sports. They played with animals. They did each other's hair and makeup. They played dress up. They did all of the average, like, girly things, like small town girly things that you would do in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're very active. Lauria was the girlier of the two. She was in cheerleading while her taller and more athletic best friend Ashley was considered more of the tomboy. She really liked hunting. She was actually really good at it. She shot her first buck at the age of 12 from 100 yards away.
That's impressive.
It's extremely impressive, for sure. She was also on the basketball team, and Lauria cheered for Ashley at her basketball games.
It's really cute.
Isn't it precious?
That is cute.
So yeah, they would they would always have practices together. They would always go out after the games together.
They had a real cute friendship.
They really did. They were literally joined at the hip. They had classes together. They would even go to each other's houses for holidays. And the families ended up almost being like extended families. And the two girls kind of grew up borderline siblings for the most part. They were only about 8 months apart. Lauria was born in the spring of 83 while Ashley was born in the winter. 1999 was the girls' Sweet 16 year. So they were freshmen in high school. Lauria had turned 16 first, so she was the first to get a car and a driver's license. So, of course, she drove everywhere. And Ashley had a boyfriend named Jeremy Hurst, and life seemed to be getting better, at least for Ashley. It had been pretty hard for her because her brother was killed a year prior, and that whole year afterwards, it was like, it was hard for her to find her spark. It was hard for her to find her happiness.
Yeah,
and
she was grieving.
Right. And Lauria, she did her best to just try to be there for her friend. Now that she has a car, they could go for like joy rides. They could go clear the air. She was always trying to just, make her feel a little bit better. And the holidays were, especially difficult with a lost loved one, especially your older brother. And with her birthday, just a couple days after Christmas, it was that much more difficult for her to celebrate both Christmas and her birthday that year. And so Ashley really needed Lauria. The girls spent Christmas that year together like they always did. They spent a few days at Lauria's house after Christmas on the farm. And when it came to Ashley's birthday on the 29th, the two went out to celebrate.
And this would be Christmas break, too, so these kids aren't in school at this time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It was kind of tradition at that point. You know what I
Yeah, I
mean?
would
They
think
spend
so. I had a
every
friend
single
that-
birthday.
My friend Rachel Craig and me were like that.
Aw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We spent holidays at each other's houses.
Right,
We spent all winter
right.
break together.
Right. And when you're friends that long, you start to have traditions. You start
right.
to have the things that you do that you're used to.
Mm-hmm.
Ashley wasn't really in the mood to have a birthday party that year, clearly. And so instead, the two girls and Ashley's mother, Kathy, ended up just going out shopping, having a girls' day. They got pizza. They spent the day together. And while they were out, the two girls decided to have a sleepover at Ashley's house that night. So they headed to Lauria's house to check in with her parents, make sure that that was okay, and, you know, grab some spend-a-night clothes. So Lauria they went inside. Lauria asked her dad if she could go to Ashley's that night. And of course her dad said yes, but he said that she had to be back home by noon the next day. So Lauria went to her room. She grabbed some clothes. As she's leaving the house, she said, "I love you, Daddy." She came out the door. It's on the front porch. And as she was leaving, excuse me, her mother was just pulling into the driveway, coming home from work. So as she's leaving, she greets her mother. She gives her a warm hug. Her mother reminds her, hey, you know, tomorrow you have that dentist appointment.
Got to be home at noon.
Got to be home at noon. And she said, yes, ma'am, and gave her a big hug and said, I love you. And Lauria was never seen by her parents after that.
This case is so heartbreaking.
They all went back to Ashley's house for a sleepover, and Ashley's boyfriend ended up stopping by at around 9:30 to present her with her birthday present. They had cake and ice cream, and then Jeremy ended up going home. That night, the girls were just so giddy, right? It's her 16th birthday.
Yeah,
She
it's
had been
exciting.
waiting for this day for so long. She had been preparing for this day for years. Now that she was finally 16, she was ready to go get her license and a new car. She had planned on waking up early that next day to go and get her license. She had worked at a convenience store and had saved up $4,000
For her first.
for her first car. She knew exactly what she wanted. She knew that the next day she was going to go get her license and then she was going to go buy that car and it was going to be the best fucking birthday ever. Everything just seemed right in the world. And then the two best friends went to sleep. But just a few hours later, around 6 a.m., 911 would receive a phone call from the Freeman's neighbors saying that their house was completely engulfed in flames. By the time the firefighters arrived at the scene, the house was essentially ash.
Yeah, it was gone.
It was leveled.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it was a trailer. So there's lots of air up underneath
and
that.
if they catch fire, they gone.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, police uncovered only one body from the rubble. They believed it was Kathy, Ashley's mother, but they had to wait for a positive identification.
Yeah.
But the girls were not accounted for. Lauria's car was still in the driveway. The keys were in the ignition, but the car was not on. Lorraine, Lauria's mother, received a phone call at work that next morning, like right as soon as she got to work, about 7 a.m., so about an hour after the 911 call.
I can't imagine.
It was her older son saying that the Freeman's house was on fire.
Oh, I'd be sick. I'd just die right there. Can't imagine.
She essentially just dropped the phone, and as soon as she hung up the phone with her son, a police officer came in.
Oh, God.
And he essentially said, ma'am, do you know the Freemans? She said, yes, my daughter was there last night. He said, ma'am, their house is completely burnt down. So they told her that only one body was found and they don't have an identification for it. So she called her husband and the two of them went to the scene. The fire was out at that point, and the area was completely roped off. Immediately, Lorraine knew something was off. The officers at the scene were just standing there. They were literally just standing there talking to each other. They weren't investigating. They weren't looking over the crime scene. They were essentially just making sure nobody crossed the tape. One officer approached them and explained the situation. He said that they were securing the scene until the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigations, or OSBI, had arrived.
Mm-hmm.
He said that they were handing the case off to them.
They didn't want to deal with this shit. Well, they didn't have the resources either.
They
Maybe.
It's touchy. So they at first admitted that it was because since the two girls were not accounted for, that this was now a missing persons case. Yeah. But that's not it. They actually said that because they didn't want to be under any suspicion of wrongdoing.
Yeah.
Lorraine and Jay knew what this was about.
Yeah.
It was about Danny and their son Shane, the one that was murdered by police.
Yes, he was murdered by police.
About a year and a half prior to the fire, Danny, or actually it was like a year and like a week prior to the fire, Danny had called police. Oh, sorry. No, this was a year and a half prior. Danny had called the police to inform that his son was a runaway. And when they found him, Shane explained that he had disobeyed his father and that the two had gotten into an argument and that his father had whipped him with a belt and the marks on him had bled through his clothing. And so Danny ended up being charged with injuring a minor. And then a few months later, Shane was a runaway again. And this time, he ended up stealing the neighbor's car and the neighbor's gun. A police officer found the stolen vehicle on the side of the road. He pulled over, parked behind the car, and was preparing to get out of his car to speak to Shane. But instead, Shane got out of his vehicle, pointed the handgun at the officer. The officer reached for his gun, and the two essentially had a standoff. Just as backup was arriving. In the heat of the moment, the officer pulled the trigger, shot Shane, and he died immediately. Instead of shooting him in the arm, in the leg, anything, instead of just disarming this
I don't know why they're not
teenage boy
to take out like limbs and make somebody immobile as opposed to killing them.
How are you not trained to use a firearm correctly if you have a firearm? That's not okay. So it was ruled out that the officer was acting in self-defense, but that wasn't good enough for Danny Freeman. It was also known amongst friends and family that Danny was going to file a lawsuit against the sheriff's office for a wrongful death of his son.
Mm-hmm.
Danny's brother reported that Danny had called him just a few weeks prior to the fire and told him that if anything were to happen to him, that the sheriff's office had something to do with it. And when his brother asked further questions, he said, "If I'm dead, it was the sheriff's office." And he wouldn't say anything further. It was reported that they had until January 8th of 2000, which was the day of his son's murder, like a year after the day of the anniversary, to file that lawsuit. So again, this is December 29th. They had a week of 1999. Yeah. They had a week
to file the lawsuit.
So as Lorraine and Jay are standing there at the crime scene, right at that yellow tape, waiting for something to happen, the OSBI show up and they begin processing the scene. They see the body that was found, and they said that she was an older woman that had clearly bore children and was wearing a wedding ring. So it was definitely Kathy. Yeah. Definitely Kathy. Yeah. And so Lorraine positively identified the body as Kathy. She was found in the couple's room on the waterbed. This is just interesting as far as the crime scene is concerned. she was found on the waterbed, and during the fire, the waterbed had burst and had put out the fire around her.
So that's what preserved her body.
Yeah. I just found that interesting.
It is interesting.
She was already dead at the time, but I had never thought about...
It wasn't the fire or smoke inhalation that killed her.
No. She was taken to the coroner's office for examination, and the OSBI ended up processing the scene for another hour or two, and then just decided to call it a day. That was it. They told Lorraine and Jay that there was no further evidence remaining there, and that was it.
Such fucking bullshit.
With only Kathy's body being found, they still clung on to hope.
Of course.
That maybe the girls were safe, that maybe they had escaped the fire with Danny, and,
they'd run off. They were
maybe
scared.
They would be found. Yes, absolutely. Who knows? Maybe Danny just went crazy for a second and took the girls. Maybe they could be found. But it didn't seem like the agents were really putting forth much effort to this whole thing. So Jay Bible thought that it was really odd that the whole 40-acre plot of land and surrounding the house wasn't searched at all. So he gathered up a team of ranchers on horseback and aided in his own personal search of the area for any clues. They didn't find anything, but this did stir up the OSBI to actually take this case a little bit more seriously. Jay and Lorraine were called into the sheriff's office that next day to meet with OSBI agents to discuss the case a little bit further. The investigators ended up asking the couple about the girls and what their day-to-day life was and what if they could possibly be runaways because they are 16. But of course that was quickly ruled out.
Yeah, they weren't like that.
No. And so they started asking questions about Danny and what his lifestyle was like and the people that he hung out with. The couple told them that their daughters were close, that they really liked Ashley's mother, Kathy, but her father was someone they tended to stay away from because of the company that he kept and the things that he did. It was also known that Danny was having trouble coming up with the money to pay the lawyers. Again, it was a week before he had to submit that report, and he still hadn't. You could tell he was really hurting for money.
Yeah.
It was $5,000 that he had to come up with for the lawyer.
And that's no small chunk of change back then or today.
Yeah, no. No. But yeah, especially back then it was, and for his family, they were low income. And so it was really difficult. And so in order to save money, he had picked up small time pot dealing and growing. So, yeah. So he had connections. He had people that he hung around with. So now the suspicions grew to possibly being drug trade involvement, possibly a drug deal gone bad. Now, the next day, at the coroner's report came back that for the autopsy of Kathy, she had been shot in the head execution style and was dead prior to the fire. It was also ruled that an accelerant was used in the fire, meaning that this was definitely a murder.
It was to cover up evidence.
And it was to cover up evidence.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Destroy evidence, rather.
Exactly. But I mean, a gunshot wound to the head, it was ruled out that it wasn't a suicide or anything like that.
Yeah.
Using accelerant for the fire, and that the fire wasn't an accident.
Right.
So now the case was, ruled a homicide, and Danny is now the key suspect. Rumors in town started to circulate. Everyone thought that Danny had killed his wife and taken the girls. One person claimed to have seen Danny driving a white pickup truck with the girls inside. Rumor had it that Danny was planning on using the girls as leverage to get to the officer that had killed his son. That maybe in desperation and mental decline, he was still very much grieving over the loss of his son. Maybe he just kind of snapped one night and thought that this was the only way to do it.
But that ain't what happened.
That's not. So now the crime scene is considered cleared. The yellow tape goes down and it's basically surrendered to the family. Jay and Lorna, they can't sit with this. They can't just sit there while their daughter is somewhere. And they saw how they searched that crime scene. They stood there and watched.
They knew they did a shit-fuck job.
Exactly. So they decide to go back to the property and search for clues. They begin sifting through the burnt rubble, and all of a sudden, Jay sees something and instantly knows what it is. He calls Lorraine over, and she could see it. It's right there on top. The OSBI had failed to recover a whole ass other body.
Yep.
And it wasn't even hidden. His arm was sticking out.
Yep. They just didn't give a fuck. This case makes me mad, dude.
What the absolute fuck. So yeah, it was definitely Danny. They could tell. His arm was outstretched, his hand was completely burnt off, and his entire face was melted off.
My God.
But they knew it was him because of the metal plate exposed in his head.
Yeah, he had a metal plate.
Mm-hmm. Now they're really worried. I mean, because clearly Danny isn't with their girls.
And the
Danny's
girls
dead.
aren't the type to stay away from home if something were bad were to happen.
Exactly. So, and they found Danny. The OSBI.
So now they're thinking maybe my babies are in
that rubble.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So Lorraine instantly, starts freaking out. She calls 911 to report her findings. And when the deputy shows up, it was clear that Jay and Lorraine were pissed. Like, he shows up and, you could, cut the tension with a knife. Danny was literally just laying there on top of the rubble. She was like, how the fuck did you miss that? So the lead OSBI detective arrived at the scene just minutes later and began roping off the crime scene once again. And it didn't take long to determine that Danny was also shot in the head, declaring this a double homicide. A huge search team, including the girls' family members, friends, and members of the community, as well as OSBI agents.
Finally.
And the local police. Like, all these people gathered to one by one sift through each individual piece of the rubble.
Finally. That's just what they should have been doing at the start.
Oh, it doesn't get much better. This case is so frustrating. So it was known that Ashley had saved up her money for this car, right? She had like four grand saved up.
In cash, I believe.
In cash. And she had saved that money and stored it in the freezer, which is very smart.
That is very smart.
Yeah. And so they found the kitchen freezer, and they looked in the freezer, and the money was missing.
Mm-hmm.
I'll probably, whenever we wrap up this case, we'll talk about what we think happened with the money.
Yeah.
But it was missing. So, they thought either the girls took it before leaving or someone who knew where it was took it. But Lorraine found Lauria's purse that had her wallet in it, and there was $200 in it. So
see, that's strange.
Exactly.
I have my theory, but we'll save it.
I have so many.
End.
So
yeah.
So, and they also found other belongings that they wouldn't have just left behind if they would have left on their own accord. They near the remains of the house, so like close to the house, but also close to like where all the cars were parked. Lorraine found a car insurance card belonging to an unknown person. The name was never released to the public, but it was a person that she didn't know, that the family didn't know, that the girls didn't know. And when she showed this evidence to police, one of the officers literally said to this mother's face, "What the hell makes you think that insurance verification card has anything to do with this investigation?"
Well, maybe it's location, numbnuts. Y'all.
Anything
my blood
can.
Pressure.
I know.
My blood pressure.
I know. It makes me want to start a riot.
Yeah, maybe it's just random trash.
But who fucking cares if it is random trash?
People ain't just willy-nilly throwing their insurance cards around.
Mm.
Maybe in the process of getting in and out of a vehicle, someone's insurance card fell the fuck out.
Who knows? So other than that, the search proved fruitless. The girls weren't in the burned down remains of the house at all. They had to be somewhere out there. The Bibles went home and started calling everyone they knew and rallied up a search crew of several hundred local community members to search the surrounding area the next day. They did a full grid search of the property and the surrounding area, and nothing was found, not a single thing. New theories began circulating that maybe the girls had something to do with the homicide.
I remember that, and that pissed me off. I never thought
Well,
that.
because Ashley is such a great marksman. Like, she knows how to handle a gun.
Sure, I get, like, everybody has to be investigated, but I never felt that the OSBI or the police ever looked for those girls sincerely.
Or wanted to. So the idea was, the rumors were, the suspicions were, that maybe Danny went off one night. And maybe if he had beaten his son that one time,
Ashley too.
that maybe he was beating Ashley too. Maybe he was beating Kathy too. Maybe he was beating Kathy, or maybe he had killed Kathy and Ashley walked in on her father killing her mother. And so she killed her father, burnt down the house, and then ran away with her best friend.
And took the money.
But why not take that extra $200?
Why not take your purse? A
You would
teenage
take
girl
your
ain't
purse.
never gonna leave their purse.
And their makeup?
Well, not just the makeup. There's like everything is in a purse that you can survive with.
Yes.
People like don't get it.
Yes.
You know.
You take it everywhere with you. I bring my purse over here.
Yeah.
That's mostly because I don't have pockets.
I hate to be like, I'm not like the other girls. I don't even have a purse.
You have a big bag that's falling apart.
No, I don't use it anymore because it fell apart.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that's
fucked up.
Bad.
I know, stupid.
I don't have enough pockets to not have a purse. But anyway, so now Ashley and Lauria move from being possible victims to possible suspects. And because of this, there is no Amber Alert for them.
Nope.
The lead detective for the OSBI reassured Lorraine that they had added the girls to the national database for the missing persons, but she didn't trust them.
No, I wouldn't.
And she's good to not. She goes to the police station, the local police station, who she knows some people at. She goes to her friend and is like, hey, can you check the database?
Ain't up there.
He does. And yep, the girls aren't there.
And I'll tell y'all something if you're listening. Like, even if they had been added to the Amber Alert's fucking useless.
Right.
And if you don't believe it is, listen to my episode about Amber Alerts.
Yeah, it was like from a year or two ago, but you should definitely go back and check that out.
Yes.
It is an important case to listen to for sure.
I think so. I think that's some of our best work was
Yeah, and it was, that month was literally my favorite for sure.
Mine too.
But yeah, it's just devastating how, families of the victims want and need a system put into place. We finally have a system and it doesn't even fucking work. It's just...
How many kids have to die?
How many?
Piss me off.
Lauria's mother and cousin traveled all over the state, putting up missing persons posters in every window, every electrical pole, every newspaper stand, everywhere they could think of. They asked everyone that would speak to them to keep an eye out for these girls. The family and the investigators and all of the local communities continued to search for clues and follow any leads that presented themselves, anything to find the girls. That next Christmas of 2000 was heartbreaking for the Bible family. Lauria was always the one to put up the Christmas tree every year. It was kind of her thing. And Christmas was her favorite time. I mean, it was her best friend's birthday, and she just loved the Christmas tree. And this was the first year that Lauria wasn't there to put the Christmas tree up.
So sad.
So the family just held each other and cried, and together they pieced the tree together and put all of her ornaments on the tree. And Lorraine decided to leave the tree up until Lauria came home. She didn't want to take it down because Lauria was always the one to take it down too. Years and years and years went by. Almost a decade went by. And the tree just kind of became a shrine of gifts and memorabilia.
I've seen pictures of it. It's just heartbreaking.
I'm trying so hard not to cry. It's overwhelming because it just became like a shrine.
Testament to grief.
Yeah.
Of no closure
and how much a person means to you in your life.
Yeah.
Like, of course you love and appreciate them while they're here, but when they're yanked out of their existence with no answer.
And it almost makes them like a saint, far away.
Yeah.
And untouchable.
Yeah.
It's really just like an icon. Like almost a symbol instead of a person anymore. Mm-hmm. So it's really hard to grieve somebody when you don't know what happened to them.
You have no closure.
Mm-mm.
For almost 10 years, that tree stayed up until one day, under the weight of all the presents, all the gifts, and all of the pictures, it finally fell and it broke. And she never put up a Christmas tree after that.
Poor mama.
The porch light stayed on, though. That'll never be turned off. Kathy's mother, Celeste, still believes that the sheriff's office has something to do with it. Somebody at the sheriff's department has something to do with it.
I'm inclined to agree.
I don't know for sure, but I know that they
helped in some way.
They did not help. I'll just say, or they definitely didn't try.
Yeah, and to me, I just use Occupant's razor. It's because there was some kind of involvement, and I'm gonna guess
1,000%.
My theory on that is that because of police involvement with Danny's son's death, they just didn't want to touch it.
I think that's the bare minimum of the situation. I think
that's without getting into the conspiracy theories.
Exactly. That's what I mean by that. Yeah, that's what I meant by that. It's that's what we do know. Because they said that verbatim. Because of this,
and
we won't get.
You know what? I actually agree with them on that. I think it is a bit of a conflict of interest, and OSBI should have been brought in,
right?
Given the complexity of the case,
yes,
as well.
Absolutely.
I think the FBI should have been brought in.
1,000% because
it's missing children.
Yeah, I think eventually the FBI was brought in.
They were, but it should have been right away.
Exactly.
These country
the OSBI. They fumbled everything, all of the evidence.
They didn't give a shit.
No.
They just thought, these are some fucking hayseed, like, meth heads, and we don't give a fuck about them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, to clear his name, the officer who had shot Shane decided to come forward and take a lie detector test, which we all know about lie detector tests, whatever.
They're not admissible in court,
no, they're
so
not.
Why should I give a shit about them?
Exactly. But he did take the lie detector test and essentially passed it and was ruled out. The whole department was ruled out because of it. But it's
so fucking dumb.
Yeah. But it did kind of push the investigation further, and it did kind of at least settle some of the fears of the community, because let's just be honest, even if they were not involved,
sure,
I don't even want to say that. Yeah, everybody was scared.
You don't want killer cops fucking around.
You
in your
don't,
community.
and you want to be informed, but at the same time, like, you don't want the fear of the possibilities to cloud things and then make you.
The public needed some kind of closure on that particular aspect of the case, where they were never going to trust police again, which ended up hurting Lauria and Ashley's case.
That's a beautiful point.
People don't want to fucking talk to cops they can't trust.
Exactly.
So even if somebody did see something, hear something, why would you come forward then? They're just going to kill me.
Yes.
This is why it's so important, y'all, for police to behave them fucking selves to a degree above your average citizen. Protect and serve. I know constitutionally they don't have to do that now, but I'm done.
Nope. You're good. You're good. Yep.
But you get me.
I was snapping for you. I was snapping for you the whole time. Praise it be.
A snap cup.
Mm-hmm. Because you're right.
Yes, that's why it's important. That's why he took the lie detector test. It wasn't like he was weighed down by a guilty conscience or anything.
No, he just wanted to prove something.
They had to make their public image look good again, so people would fucking talk to him. And I'm at least thankful for that.
Yeah.
Because that's why there was more movement on the case after.
Exactly. So Lorraine was certain that it wasn't someone from the sheriff's office. If it wasn't someone from the sheriff's office, it had to have been someone to do with the drug dealings, right?
Yeah.
the lead investigators just didn't think that someone who was in the drug trade would want a couple of children on their hands. Which he said that with his own mouth. I saw him say that. Like, it's not just something I read. And it just made me so mad to see this man say it with his own face.
No, not to like raise or take care of, but to sex traffic and murder.
I'm telling, these aren't just some annoying children that are going to
young
like
ladies.
Those are 16-year-old, very beautiful, very athletic, very great girls.
Mm-hmm. They are going to be considered as valuable as something like a Mercedes in the driveway.
Exactly.
I hate putting it that way. I don't.
No, but that's the reality of it.
Yes, that's the reality. And if they weren't looking immediately into sex trafficking and stuff like that,
that is like the main age in which girls get sex trafficked is between 13 and 16.
Yeah,
come the fuck on.
No, they don't want to deal with kids, but the 16-year-old girl is not a little kid.
Exactly.
It's not like a crying toddler.
Exactly. And for someone already committing such horrible crimes,
raping some teenage girls and selling them isn't really gonna like bother them too much.
Exactly.
Or murdering them later.
Just saying. So, yeah, Lorraine knew better than that. She knew what kind of girls these were. She knew how valuable these girls were. She knew the real world, though she wasn't involved in,
Well, I'm not involved in that shit either.
Exactly, but she knew exactly what was going on. And so she decided to go through her contacts. She decides to do her own side investigation.
Oh, yes.
This bitch is a bad bitch. Like, I'm so proud of this woman. So she goes through her own contacts. She starts talking to people. She finds essentially like the top of the food chain of the drug industry in her local community. She finds like the head source. Like instead of going through all the addicts and then going through the dealers
and then the main plugs and the suppliers.
Exactly.
You go to the main dude.
The very main dude. And so she goes to him, and he told her that she should be looking at the Mexican cartel connections in, it's not Miami, Oklahoma.
Miami, bitch. Okay.
Miami, Oklahoma.
Listen, don't make fun. That's a Native American word.
They say it like that?
Miami? That's right.
Oh, okay.
Miami is your fucking American style.
Oh, okay. Well, then I won't make fun of it if it's traditional indigenous pronunciation. Right. I thought it was just like twang.
Like dumb fuck pronunciation?
I thought it was country twang.
Man.
But yeah, so they tell her to basically like, oh, you want to deal with the cartel if that's what's going on. And she fucking does.
Amen.
This woman, this middle-aged mother, goes by herself.
Listen, there ain't nothing tougher than a middle-aged mother. As a middle-aged mother, I'm telling you.
I'm telling you. Just a bad bitch.
Let me tell you something, y'all. Listen, precious babies. Angels, sweet angel babies. Listening, I know your age range because the computer tells me.
Well, and now 35 is middle-aged because our life expectancy is going down. So that's fine.
Cool. Anyway, your life doesn't end after 30. And you become even more of a badass because you don't give not one single fuck anymore what anybody thinks of you.
Ain't it beautiful?
It's beautiful. I am a bad bitch for that very reason. I mean, I never really gave a fuck, but I super extra don't give a fuck now that I'm almost 45. Oh, that hurts to say. And you don't care if you're not cool anymore.
Yeah.
You will wear a muumuu to the grocery store.
Hell yeah.
God help anyone who gets in your way. Between you and them zebra cakes. Go on.
We're getting personal now. So Lorraine's friends and family, everybody was like, dude, you should not go do this. Like, this is so dangerous. Yeah. What the absolute fuck?
You lose your baby, though.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You ain't got nothing else in
Exactly. Her mother-in-law came to her and was like protesting, was like, just like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you shouldn't do this. She was like, what if they start shooting at you? And Lorraine said, well, if they start shooting, means I'm close.
Amen, sister.
Ooh. So she secured a meeting a meeting time and a location. She drove out to a deserted area in the middle of the night. She waited for a few hours, just sitting and waiting.
God, it's nerve-wracking.
And then a man drives up, parks in front of her. She gets out. She approaches the vehicle. He took one look at her and he said, "How do you know I'm not packing?"
She didn't give a fuck.
She took one look at him and she said, "How do you know I'm not packing?"
Amen.
He said, "Were you not scared to talk to me?" She said, "Nope." And then she just got straight to the point. She said, "I need to know if those girls were taken and if Danny was killed because he owes you money." And the man just looked at her and he said, "Ma'am, 2 things. I don't kill women and I don't kill children." And she said, "Okay." And that was that. He didn't do it.
No. This ain't no cartel.
How fucking powerful, though. How fucking powerful.
It's amazing.
That's all she needed. And she was going to do whatever it took to get that information.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes a no at least starts pointing you in a different direction.
You have to know. You just
know.
go, you get the information, you know.
That was her, I would believe, her last hope. That
Absolutely.
Those girls were alive. And
Absolutely.
I'm sure after that she knew they were not.
A year and a half passed by without any further leads. When in July of 2001, police were informed that there was a potential sighting of the girls at a New Year's Eve party in 2000, just days after their disappearance. Inmates at a local county jail reported being at a party, allegedly the home of the Glover family, which was a known family of drug addicts and meth dealers and meth cookers and, the whole thing. And it was stated that the girls were videotaped there, being drugged, beaten. I forgot to give trigger warnings.
I will put it at the front of this episode.
Yeah, but here's some trigger warnings. Yeah, I'm not going to go into great detail, but these videotapes were graphic. It showed the girls bound by ropes, gagged, and being sexually assaulted by all members of the party. And everybody was drunk and high on meth. Investigators got a warrant to search the Glover family property. They searched the yard surrounding the house first with cadaver dogs and flashlights in the middle of the night. They didn't find anything except for buried meth equipment. They entered the home to search for clues of the girls' whereabouts, hoping to find the videotapes, but nothing was found except for more drug paraphernalia and one mysterious dark red stain, which they cut out of the carpet. They sent in for testing, and unfortunately, it would take another year and a half for that one blood sample to be tested.
Mm-hmm. And then we wonder why women don't report rape. When rape kits, 60,
exactly.
What was it like? 70% of rape kits are never, ever tested.
They're just sitting there.
They're just sitting there and have been for decades.
And they're expired or whatever. And
No good now. The evidence is ruined. So just let that boil your brain.
Well, this stain came back as, I believe it was tested as blood, but it didn't match the girls.
No.
So it was pointless anyway. So there were no further evidence gathered at that house connecting the girls to this event, but rumors spread around about more evidence. This time, instead of video, it was a series of Polaroids that were allegedly circulating of the girls bound, gagged, and beaten, just like in the video. Now, news outlets heard about these Polaroids.
Yep.
And they released information on these rumors, and many people came forward saying that they had seen the Polaroids or that they knew someone who did. But the Polaroids were never found, the leads never came from this, and none of the witnesses would give names of themselves or who had the Polaroids. And it felt like just a dead end all over again.
Like a ghost hunt.
Or like maybe these things were all red herrings or something like that. Or,
and as a parent, you would hope so. You would hope it wouldn't be true.
Absolutely. Of course you want to hope that that's not true.
I hope it's not true.
Of course you want to hope that those girls are out there.
Or at least if they were killed, it was fast.
Yeah.
And they weren't tortured.
Yeah. But the Bibles couldn't give up, and neither could their community. Missing persons posters were everywhere, and the case was featured on America's Most Wanted. It was on Unsolved Mysteries. Every news outlet across the country was talking about the mysterious disappearance of Lauria and Ashley Freeman. A $50,000 reward was raised by the community, and it spawned leads all across the United States for potential sightings and involvements. They would get calls from all corners of the country saying that the girls were seen alive simultaneously in multiple states all at the same time.
Yeah.
Which, of course, you know, most of these sightings were more than highly unlikely. Yeah, absolutely. You know, we see that with all cases, but we saw it a lot with the Gabby Petito case and things like that. We saw it with
Madeline McCann as well.
Still to this day, people are saying...
Oh, and people coming forward saying they are Madeline McCann. It's ridiculous.
Yes, absolutely. But they had to follow up each individual lead, of course. They had to do their due diligence. Lorraine and Jay aided in the search as well, driving from state to state for years.
Bless them.
For years. Anytime there was a lead, anywhere, even if it didn't seem likely at all, they drove there.
Hoping.
Think about all the hours of driving just to get there. And then driving back.
To hang on to that little bit of hope, I would think.
Exactly.
Anything.
Texas death row inmate and serial killer Tommy Lynn Sells, who was believed to have killed anywhere from 22 to 70 people, was actually only convicted of one murder. Mm-hmm. And this one murder was that of a 13-year-old girl in Texas who he fatally stabbed 16 times. I don't know why, but that number, I'm just like, what the fuck? Why?
What is wrong?
Jesus, stop. This incident happened 2 days after the Freeman fire. The place in Texas is very close to this place in Welch. I mean, like, I've traveled back and forth from Texas to Oklahoma many times, it's ridiculous. Yes. So it's not unheard of to travel between the two states. And so, yeah, he immediately becomes a suspect. Investigators thought this could be a coincidence, but it could be a lead, so they went to Texas to have a little talk with Tommy Sells. After 6 hours of questioning, Tommy admitted to killing both Kathy and Danny, then setting the house on fire, then killing the two girls and dumping their bodies in a separate location. He made a deal with the prosecutors that if he showed them where the girls' bodies were, he'd get a lighter sentence. So he took the officers to a location near the Red River, which is by the border of Oklahoma and Texas. There, they got out of the van. He walked through the woods and led them to a certain area. He pointed out where he said that he dumped the bodies. And actually, in the spot that he pointed out, they did find a bone. It was an animal bone. But I just find that it's very ironic that they do find a bone. But
he just wanted out of jail for a day.
Yeah, he just want to walk around.
They do this.
They do this all the time.
Oh my God. How many cases have we covered?
And there's so many cases that this happens that we don't even talk about it because it's just like, why?
It's just gross and I don't want to give them any more fucking attention.
But they do it all the time. And I mean, I get it. Like, I mean, I wouldn't be that horrible of a person, but like, there's tons of cases where people will admit to doing the crime and get not just a lighter sentence, but like, I don't know, more commissary, shower time. They get a free meal, you know, like anything. They'll do it. They'll do it for lesser
milkshakes and cheeseburgers.
Exactly. They'll do it for lesser crimes too, like robberies and things like that, not just murders. And it's, whatever. If you're in there for life, you're in there for life. Fuck it, I guess. I don't know. I would probably think of a different way to get a free cheeseburger, but that's me.
McDonald's app. There's an easier way.
I do like that McDonald's app. It does save me a time or two.
Free Fry Fridays.
Chicken nuggies.
Mm-hmm.
So another year or two went by, again, with little to no leads, when in July of 2005, a convicted serial killer by the name of Jeremy Jones was arrested and believed to be a possible connection to this case. He was a known meth head who was sentenced to death for killing a woman in Mobile, Alabama. And then he set her trailer on fire. So
it fits the MO.
It does. It seems to line up pretty well. It seemed to be perfect. And so they looked into his records and found that he was arrested for public intox the day after the Freeman house fire, just 10 miles away.
That's suspicious as fuck.
There's a lot of things, lots of coincidences here. So OSBI agents drove to Alabama to interview Jeremy Jones. They interviewed him on 2 separate occasions for a few hours each time. The first interview, he denied everything. The second interview, he ended up admitting that he killed the family. He said that Danny had owed him drug money and that he killed Danny first since he was the strongest, and then he killed his wife. And after she woke up from the gunshot blast to Danny, and after that, he set the house on fire. When they asked him what type of gun he used in the killings, which was a very specific type of shotgun, which this information was never released to the public, and he told them the specific type of shotgun that was used in the case. So they're like, okay, definitely the guy. And then he said that they asked him if he used an accelerant in the fire. He said yes. They asked him what accelerant, which was also another thing that they kept out of the details to the public. And he ended up saying the correct accelerant that was used in the fire. So they're like, okay, this is the guy. And then he said that after he set the house on fire, the 2 girls ran out and, you know, they're like kind of freaking out, like they're half asleep. And they see the house on fire. They see a man there and they assume that this man could help them. They don't assume that this man is the one that started the house fire. They just assume that the house caught fire in the middle of the night. You know, it's wintertime, space heaters, who knows? So they called to this man for help, and he was like, you know, yeah, get in the truck. Let's go get help. You know, I'll get you guys to safety. We'll go to the police or whatever. And when they get in the car, or his truck, he said that as soon as the door closed, the 2 girls were inside. He held them at gunpoint, and he said that he you know, tied them up and took them to a deserted mine shaft in the nearby town of Galena. He said that he gave them he gave them exact details of how he got to this mine shaft in Galena. Gave them road names of the directions from the Freeman house to the mine shaft, which were perfect directions. And he said that he dumped the girl's body there in the mine shaft, and then he drove back to approximately the same area right up the road from the Freeman's house to a friend's house, where he proceeded to get high, and then that's when he got the public intox charge. So they were like, this fits perfectly. So Jeremy Jones located a spot on the map where the mine shafts were that he had put the girls' bodies. He told them how to get there. He told them where to find the bodies. And for 2 days, they searched deep within the mine shafts. And like down into the mine shafts, there's like water, like there's an underwater current, like the water table. And so they had to get in there with like equipment, you know what I mean? And like get in there and like really search.
Let me guess, it was all big old waste of time.
Nothing. Not a damn thing. Not a damn thing was in there.
Didn't do it.
Exactly. As soon as the search was over, Jeremy Jones recanted his statement. Upon further examination of the timeline, investigators believed that it was absolutely impossible for him to commit the crime because the mine shaft was about an hour away, and he was arrested at 4:30 in the morning. That 911 call didn't come in until 6 a.m. And you know how fast those house fires go up. It couldn't have been long prior to 6 a.m. that the house fire started, which would have put the house fire being started at after 4:30 a.m. when he was arrested. So there was no way that he could have started the fire. But it was just so interesting that he had essentially guessed the type of shotgun, the type of accelerant.
I often wonder if in some of these elaborate false confessions, if they weren't like thinking about it.
I wonder, since it's such a close community, that maybe he didn't know the people that were involved. Because
maybe
does bring up some things that come back up later. And so
I think that maybe he heard some shit.
I think he had to have known people, heard shit.
Exactly.
I mean, it's a small town. And when you do the same type of substance as somebody else, you know them. You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah, you
know them.
You're talking.
Yeah.
You're saying all kinds of wild shit.
Exactly. So I tend to believe that he knew this information and that he was just reciting off this information so that way he could get the plea deal.
Yeah, probably.
That's my own personal opinion. But once again, the investigation is back to square one with no leads. The case went cold. The lead OSBI agents and detectives retired, and it seemed as though all hope was lost. Until 2017, when a new sheriff came into office. Now, this sheriff just happened to be moving boxes around, cleaning and organizing, when he came across an old crate that was not labeled. And it just so happened to have evidence from the Bible Freeman case. From when they were changing the case over to OSBI, this box had been left at the sheriff's office.
Shocking.
A box of evidence that I don't even think the sheriff's office either knew about or care. I knew they didn't care about it, but I wonder if they even knew about it.
They at least forgot about it.
Because what was inside of the box was information on a group of men who had been suspects the entire time.
The cops knew.
Right.
They knew.
I think so.
I think they covered up for him.
But I don't have anything to back up why I think it.
I think it because I believe, like, I don't know if you have this bit in your notes, so I don't want to go forward, so I'm going to wait till the end. So that's
We'll talk about what we think at the end.
Yeah.
Because I have my suspicions all different types of ways. So this box included the list of suspects, as well as names of people who may have additional information. There were allegedly over 12 people who had remained silent this entire time.
Yeah, of course they did.
For almost 2 decades. Lorraine created a Facebook page alongside Lauria's cousin Lisa, and together they spoke at press conferences. They managed the Facebook page. They tried to get the word out as much as possible about this potential lead, and essentially urging the people that they knew were out there to come forward. Her cousin Lisa ended up saying in a news interview that she understood the fear of these violent men, but she said, think of your own children, your own grandchildren. Think of them, and then consider letting us know what happened.
Yeah, how can you go to bed at night?
Exactly.
Letting those people
exactly.
suffer.
You would protect them. You would want to do anything you could to protect the ones that you love. Think about these children as well. And when that interview was released to the public, almost all, if not all, of the witnesses came forward one by one. And most of the individuals actually were women who had dated the men involved, or had otherwise gotten so close to them in order to not only hear them talk about this crime, but also be silenced, knowing that if they were to say anything, that they would be next. Now, remember the insurance card? The car insurance card?
Yes, I do.
That was left at the scene? That was in the box. It was there. They ended up telling Lorraine that that was no possible part of anything, blah, blah, blah. Like, what the hell are you thinking? And then they ended up putting it in the evidence box. Now, the name on the card obviously wasn't released, but court documents referred to this person as TW. It was one of the suspect's girlfriends. They had borrowed her car. A local man, she was the girlfriend of a local man named Phil Welch, who was a meth cooking and evangelist who would get super high on meth and then start touting end of the world nonsense about God, Jesus,
right
the Holy Ghost, and devils. That's almost it's lots of religious,
lots of shadow people, demon talk on the meth.
Yeah. It's very strange and interesting,
and if y'all find that interesting, I want you to go onto YouTube and check out Shrouded Hands trip reports, and it has all kinds of drugs, like of people having a bad time on them. It's just fascinating. I'm just throwing that out there because I love that YouTuber.
It's also really good to stay informed. You know, you want to know what people are going through, even when they commit the crimes or whatever.
It's to have empathy for others and just to, I don't know, just have some knowledge and like I find it interesting.
It doesn't hurt to know more.
Never does.
Mm-mm. So yeah, this man was considered around town to be pure evil. Everyone hated him and everybody was fearful of him. Everyone knew that if they crossed him, they were dead. And so it was believed that he did not act alone, which this is a suspicion that the parents had the entire time. They were like, okay, this is a 5'7", very athletic, very muscular girl that can shoot a fucking rifle and take down a whole deer. Like, and then a cheerleader, like, I'm sorry, cheerleaders are very strong.
They are very athletic.
Very strong. And she was shorter. And as a short girl, yeah. But anyways, the parents were like, there's no way that just one person was going to be able to take down these two girls by themselves. It had to have been multiple people.
Yeah, it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's believed that he didn't act alone, that he had actually two other accomplices the night of the fire, a man named David Pennington and a man named Ronnie Busick. The frustrating part is that Phil Welch and David Pennington were already dead at this point.
Yeah.
Phil had died in 2007 and David had died in 2015. So police turned their attention on Ronnie Busick. They found the woman whose insurance card was found at the scene, and they were able to get a lot of information from her. She said that she lived in the house with Phil Welch and overheard several conversations between the three men about the murders and what they had done to the girls. They bragged about it all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. So she told police that it was, in fact, an issue with owing drug money. She heard them say that they took the girls and tied them up, gagged them, took them to a trailer house in Pitcher, Oklahoma, which Phil had a trailer house there. And this is 4 hours away.
Yeah.
So they drove like to the other side of the state.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where they ended up torturing
and
sexually assaulting, and eventually strangling the two girls to death and dumping their remains in a mine shaft in Pitcher. It was also alleged that they had kept them for 2 weeks.
Yeah, they did.
And the Polaroids of them, they were just emaciated.
It's disgusting.
And the girl that ended up finding the Polaroids, because the Polaroids were real, they weren't a rumor. I don't know if the videotape was real. It's likely that it was. But the Polaroids were real. One of the girlfriends ended up finding the briefcase that he had stowed them away in while Phil was in prison for an unrelated offense. And she later said that she took the Polaroids and she was terrified of seeing them, let alone what to do with them. She said that she ended up putting them in the trunk of an abandoned car on the property, but they were never found.
No.
I don't know why she did that. I mean, people do weird things out of fear.
Weird things, and she was still in a relationship with that guy.
Right, and all three of them, but especially Phil, told many people, countless people, that he would do to them what he did to those girls and leave them in the mine shaft. Mm-hmm. And so she knew he was capable of it. She knew he would do it. And so it wasn't until... I have
a really horrible detail to add that I know you're not going to find because it's obscure that I ever found it. This was a long time ago, so I can't verify the source. But I do remember reading it, is that the girls almost got away.
Oh.
They had heard the gunshots and had snuck out the back.
Oh, no. Yeah. No, I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we're laying down in a field.
Yeah.
And they stood up too soon.
Yep. And had they not...
they would still be here. It's just horrifying. It's like a horror movie. I just can't get that image out of my head.
There were 2 shotgun shells found in that field, but at the time they thought it was unrelated.
It weren't. They shot at those girls to scare them and to get them to comply.
Yep. Now, some witnesses stated that the men had bragged later about going back and filling the shaft hole that the girls were in with concrete to cover it up. Now, this was never found. This could have been just something that they said in order to scare people.
Throw attention on it.
Excuse me. Or to to further claim that they could hide your body and you'd never be found.
Yeah.
A lot of killers end up embellishing the way that they hide the bodies because they're so proud of the fact that they got away with it.
Yeah.
And they want to let everybody know that they can get away with it.
I'm not convinced they put anybody in a mine shaft.
I don't see why not.
Maybe. But it would be just so impossible because they do go down to the water table and that can wash you out far. I just don't think after all this time.
The Pincher, Oklahoma, I did a little bit of digging around about that town because it looked really cool. I want to go visit. I'd have to have some protective gear because
the whole town is shut down.
It is a ghost town. I want to go photograph it, but it's shut down because of the lead mines.
Yeah, it's lead poisoning, and all the residents were fucking dying, and children were born with defects and brain damage.
Because it was in everything. It wasn't just the pipes.
And
it wasn't
was
just
down,
it was
recently.
it was like the rubble on the kids' playground. They were playing in it. Yeah. Like it was in everything.
And when I say recently, it was in the early 2000s that Pitcher was shut down. Mm-hmm. I used to go there as a kid. I had family in Pitcher.
Really?
Yeah.
That was a very southern sounding sentence you just said.
It's a southern sounding thing.
But yeah, I just found that interesting that town even existed. It was just a lead poisoning town. But he lived there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, either way, however they disposed of the bodies still to this day have never been recovered.
And I do sincerely doubt they ever will be.
No, I don't think so.
No.
A friend of TW noted in court as CM also stated that TW had shown her the Polaroids that Phil Welch kept in the briefcase of the two girls being bound and tortured, looking emaciated and absolutely terrified. And in some of the photos, Phil Welch was actually in the photos, sitting next to them, posing with them, hanging out with them, proud of himself.
I just, the lack of humanity is really gross, and I don't get it.
Mm-hmm. And the celebration of it. He was proud of himself. He told everyone about it. Phil had threatened numerous people, including TW and CM, that if they had told anybody, they would be back in the pit themselves. And including their children, including their family members, including everybody they knew. So, of course, all of these...
Yeah, I wouldn't talk either. I'm just going to be fair to these people.
Yeah, I understand. Because police don't have a way of protecting people like we saw in our Patreon case.
Yeah, they sure fucking don't.
Yep. So, they did end up finding Ronnie Busick. He was in a Kansas jail serving charges on an unrelated sentence. The day he was released, so this guy is coming out of jail. And as he exits those doors, there is an officer waiting to arrest him once again, this time on murder charges. Mm-hmm. That's the only part of this case that's kind of satisfying.
Didn't he get out fucking recently?
Oh, don't even. My blood is going to boil soon.
All right.
Yes. So, yeah. He gets handcuffed, taken from Kansas to Oklahoma. And he, of course, places the blame on all of his deceased counterparts. You know, he's just like, oh, nope, they did it. They're dead, but they did it. And, I'm just an accessory. So, yeah, he implements Phil Welch and David. And he said that Phil Welch specifically was like the brains of the operation. And that they were originally just there to intimidate Danny into paying what he owed them. He said the deal went south, Danny fought back, and they ended up killing the couple. He said that they didn't know that the girls were there until after the gunshots, that they set the house on fire, and then that's when when he actually admits to the police about the interaction in the field and then them actually getting the girls. And, putting them at gunpoint, getting them in the car, that there's a little bit of a tussle getting in the car. And what happens as they get in the car? The insurance card falls out.
Like we said. Oh, it pisses me off. What pisses me off is they could have saved their fucking lives at that stage. They were still alive. They were alive for 2 weeks.
Alive. Oh, and I didn't even mention this. The crate that they found was dated the last day of 1999. It was like all of that was gathered in the first couple days.
Yeah. If they had set out then they could have found them girls.
The first things collected at the scene is the most important, the most valuable.
And they just totally, OSBI bungled it. The Sheriff's Department and Welch bungled it. Criminally, they should face criminal charges for bungling this case.
Even if they didn't have, their piggies in the pots, you know what I mean? Even if they didn't have any type of interference, although they at least had this.
I do believe that the Sheriff's Department at the time was complicit with drug running.
I think just about any small town police department has something
to do.
Go to
Ada, Oklahoma. I mean, don't ever.
Yeah.
But it's very much like that there with cocaine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in rural Arkansas, it's meth.
We covered those boys on the track.
Exactly.
For Patreon.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that was all about that.
Mm-hmm.
The police were complicit.
One of my most fixated cases because it's so close to home. But that's how it's like growing up in small towns, especially in the South. It's like you're not safe from, all of the craziness that goes on with the drug world, and then you're not safe with the police because
they in on it.
Because that's their family members.
Mm-hmm.
They're related to them. Yeah. And if they're not related to them,
they're in on it.
They're visiting them at least once a week for their
meth addiction.
Exactly.
Yeah,
because
sake.
What do you think fuels the fucking police task force? Well, at least in small towns that I know of. They definitely utilize that substance for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So even if they didn't, even if they weren't involved with the meth or the drug trade, even if they didn't have family members that possibly were involved in the crime, even if they had no ties to the crime whatsoever, they still were responsible for those girls' deaths because they did not fucking take this case seriously. They had all the information they needed right fucking there.
From day
one,
they
didn't
to solve this
do
case.
anything. Day one. Day fucking one. That's why it's not okay. And that's why they're responsible.
And now get to the part that make everybody mad.
So this is another part that makes me mad. So Ronnie told them that he would take them to the girls' bodies for a plea deal, proposing that they drop the murder, arson, and kidnapping charges in exchange for accessory and a reduced sentence. They accepted the deal, and they searched the abandoned mine. And they didn't find anything. His reply to this was, "Oh, well, Phil and David must have moved the bodies at a later date." And they took this as an acceptable answer. And they kept his fucking plea deal. So on July 15th, 2020, Ronnie Busick pleaded guilty and was of being accessory to the first-degree murders of Danny and Kathy, setting the house on fire, and the abduction of the murders. Just an accessory. He was sentenced to 15 years, 10 years in prison, 5 years on probation. And he, because of his plea, was released May 19th, 2023.
He served 3 fucking years.
Barely.
For the horrific murder and rape and torture of those girls that he was fully involved with.
And proud of.
And proud of, bragging to folks.
Boasted about it for 20 years.
He ain't even, you know what? Somebody like that ain't even going to hell because the devil don't want him there. Devil don't want even want to be associated.
He's bragging about it now to this day?
Of course he is. He's like, I got away with it.
I've seen people on traffic violations.
Although I will tell you this, I hope they do find some evidence because they didn't charge him for murder, did he? They charged him for accessory, and I hope they come back and get him for murder and put him away for life.
Ooh.
Because that's not double
jeopardy. I
didn't
think about that.
That's not double jeopardy, dude.
It's not.
Mm-mm.
Ooh, girl.
Oh, no.
Ooh, girl.
If I had more free time and some money. I'd make it
That's
my little hobby.
delicious.
Yeah.
Yeah, give Lorraine a break.
Bless her heart.
Poor Lorraine a break. So clearly this angered the victims' families. Lorraine especially. Lorraine's fucking pissed at this point.
Of course.
So Lorraine, being the badass mother that she is, and not accepting this at all, still seeking justice for her daughter and her best friend, she proposed a law to Congress called the Lauria and Ashley's Law, which aimed to add the conviction of accessory charges, so accessory to murder, be added to the list of charges that would mandate you of having 85% of your sentence served.
I absolutely
before
agree
you
with
were able and eligible for parole.
Because accessory means you helped.
You helped, motherfucker. You helped.
Either you didn't say nothing.
You were there.
Or you were moving stuff around. You were there, and then you kept your mouth shut like an idiot. You helped, and you should go away for a long time.
Yes.
Long, long time. This is a human life.
Yes.
4.
You didn't help save their lives.
4 people.
So, exactly.
And I get it. Their case was circumstantial at best until they find better evidence.
I mean, they really needed that guilty plea.
Yeah, they did.
They needed it. They did.
And I absolutely believe what he said happened.
I do too.
Yeah.
But they didn't have any evidence.
Not a scrap.
They had not a scrap of evidence.
They could have had they done their fucking jobs in the first place.
Pisses me off.
Yes.
So, yeah, the law was passed June 6th of 2023. So hopefully now nobody can pull that shit like Ronnie did. Lorraine also started a scholarship called the Lauria and Ashley Scholarship Fund for in the girls' honor. The girls were very ambitious. They had so many hopes and dreams. They were 16 years old. They were like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to go to school. I know that Lauria wanted to go into cosmetology. And I don't know what Ashley wanted to do other than she loved hunting. But, you know, they were girls with ambitions and aspirations. And they were going to do something with their life. And so I know that it was really important for her mother to start the scholarship fund so that way other people.
So will we have some links to donate if people are feeling donating?
Absolutely.
All right, great.
Yeah. And yeah, just to kind of wrap up their story, which is something that I'm not going to cry about. It's just something precious. It's now been 15 years since the Bible family Christmas tree fell. And this past year, Lorraine now has 3 grandchildren. One of her granddaughters, now all of the grandchildren at Christmas time have been asking, like, why don't you have a Christmas tree, Grandma?
Oh, babies.
They want their grandma to have a Christmas tree. Oh, my God.
Stop it. I'm not doing it.
One of the granddaughters said, well, Grandma, I'm going to help you put up the Christmas tree. I'm going to do it for Aunt Lauria. And that was this past year that she said it. So this Christmas, she helped put up the Christmas tree. Helped take it down.
Good.
Put up all of her auntie's Christmas ornaments. And the family has Christmas back.
I don't know. It's heartbreaking, dude. Fuck off. God.
Oh, God. It breaks me, you know?
This case was rough. You know, I vowed never to
mama.
cover it because I really got into researching it
That mama.
when we first started doing this podcast. And I just thought, I can't do this one because it just hurts. And I'm glad you did it.
Yeah.
Because I don't know.
I was so invested.
I
mean, I see
know.
why. I didn't know about this case until, you know, doing it for this episode.
It's so frustrating.
It is. And just the strength of a mom, like...
Well, you know, and being a mom, you understand.
I would have done everything that she did, of course. And how pissed off she was, how fired up she was.
And that she stayed within the perimeters of the law? Because I wouldn't have.
Yeah. Well, and the crime scene. She stayed at that crime scene even when it was roped off. She stayed there, gripping onto the yellow tape, watching everything.
It
for
shouldn't.
hours.
A grieving, scared mother should not have to dig through the rubble looking for the bones of her child.
Just hoping to find your baby.
That should never have happened, and I hope the OSBI and Welsh Sheriff Department hang their head in shame for the rest of their days until they finally go to hell where they belong. I ain't got nothing more to say on that.
1,000%.
As for theories, I think you laid it out pretty well. I think that's exactly what happened. Yeah. As for the missing money, I think it is possible that Ashley offered it for their own escape.
That's what I was thinking.
And they took it and didn't let him go.
That's what I was thinking.
And the reason they didn't get that $200 is why offer anymore? Why? And it's on fire.
Exactly.
You could still rush in and get the money out of the freezer.
Because it hadn't gotten to that part of the house yet.
Exactly.
It was started in the bedroom.
Exactly. Yep. That's what I think happened.
Yeah.
And I do think that I don't believe the OSBI was in with the drug running, but I definitely think the little podunk sheriff's office was.
They always are.
They always are. They covered up for these people. That's why it was in an unmarked fucking box, left to fucking rot, because they thought nobody would care enough to find it. And they got a new sheriff.
And we have to take it into evidence so it doesn't get thrown away or in the wrong hands or
make
something
you
like
look
that.
bad. Make you come back and look bad. So they can just lose it in a paperwork mess for the rest of forever.
At least they know where it is and it's not being seen.
Until they forgot about it. That's what happened. They forgot the fuck about it.
They retired.
Yeah. How you sleep at night makes me sick. Knowing you could have saved the lives of those girls if you weren't covering up for your drug buddies. Because they paying off the police department.
Right. Or your buddy's son. Or so-and-so.
That crony shit. That good old boy shit. Fucking hate it. Look,
for reference, we deal a lot with that good old boy shit around here. Where people cover up for people. Or people sit elbow to elbow with somebody at a bar and all of a sudden they're best
raped
friends.
somebody or beat some woman up or did some horrible shit.
Oh, but they're so cool. They couldn't have done that.
No, I was just laughing with them at the bar last week. That's the kind of attitude.
Oh, Billy Ray, he's harmless. He couldn't hurt a fly.
Oh, he's not an old pervert. He's just makes funny jokes.
Yeah.
Oh, he's a little slow, so don't mind him.
Yeah.
How often we hear that shit? The only way to get this shit to stop is the women have to come together and not put up with it no more.
I think...
The end.
I think this whole country needs a mama.
Well, I would say men, you need to stand up too, but they're not gonna, so give up on y'all.
They need a mama. To sit them down, put them in a place.
No, women need to be done with taking care of men. I'm sick of this shit.
That's true.
They don't need a mama. They need to nut up and take care of shit like the men they're supposed to be. Meanwhile, the women need to just rise up in this country collectively and never put up with any bullshit ever again. Ever. No dick worth it. It's of low value and abundant. So go out and get some more when the other one fucks up. I'm just sick of all of it. Because men fucked this case up.
Right.
And it took a mama to get any traction going anywhere. The end. She put the pressure on them with the press, or they wouldn't have done fuck all. And props to the new sheriff.
Right.
Amen.
Right.
Because he knew it would make the police department look bad, but he did the right thing anyway.
Oh, and I forgot to say the lead investigator, once the case was reopened, was a female. I forgot her name. I didn't have it written down, but
fucking shocking. What a surprise.
She was badass, and she was the one that showed up to pick up Ronnie at prison.
That piece of shit.
Yeah. She got to look him in the eyes and say,
there's not a punishment in this world or the next that's fit for him.
No.
I hope he gets yeeted into the void and is alone forever. I don't know. I can't. That's the best I can think of.
I'm just mad that the other two died. It's bullshit.
I hope they're torn apart by demons in hell every single second. I'm just mad. This case hurts my heart.
Is this how you want to transition?
You know what doesn't hurt my heart? Business time.
Jesus, good, because I was going to cry. I'm still on the verge of tears.
Yeah, I don't want to get too much business time because it's a long episode. Yeah. But hey, if you're listening on YouTube, do me a little favor, won't you? Be a darling and go ahead and hit the like button. You can hit it gently, like caress it softly. Subscribe, you're going to want to click on that. You leave a comment, unless it's mean, then don't. And hit the little notification bell. That way our episodes pop up for you and they notify you. That's what it's for. If you do these things, it helps us out a lot. We just got on YouTube. We're making good headway. Hello, YouTube people.
Share the links.
Talk about it.
If you're on
Also-
Spotify, follow.
Yeah, we're on Apple. We're everywhere you can be. I also would appreciate it if you join our Discord.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk about this case? Are you pissed off? I'm pissed off. Come, let's be pissed together.
Yeah.
I'm in Discord every day. I just got a new job. I work at home, so I'm always on the Discord because my job makes me bored sometimes. So I like to get in there and cause trouble and then run away. So come show me your pets, what you made for dinner. Yeah, I'm still on that. Like it's 2007.
Yeah.
Come show me what you made for dinner. Come show me your puppy dogs and kitty cats.
Show me the art you're working on.
Show me your art. Show me your crafts. Show me your face. I don't care. Get in there. Don't be shy.
We need to have like a selfie day where everybody can check in with a selfie and say hi. That's cute. I like seeing their faces.
I do like,
I like
seeing
seeing
their
people.
faces.
I want to see
Our
what you
fans
look
are the
like.
most beautiful fans. I would just like to say that.
Yeah, come on in and prove it. I want to look at you. You're cute.
You have to be in the Discord to
Cute.
look at people.
Everybody's cute. Everybody's cute.
Sorry, I choked to death on
Goodness.
my own spit.
That's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my goodness.
So on in the description of this podcast will be our link tree.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to support this podcast, the best way to do it, other than just listening and commenting and shit, is to join our Patreon. I've got a whole list of cool shit I'm going to be covering there, and we take more time with our Patreon cases because we can.
And this year we're really going to be working harder on Patreon.
Yes,
and
it's kind of been our main
tightening
goal.
up our tiers and things like that. It's just
Y'all,
yeah.
we've gone through some shit.
I know that we're not alone when we say 2023 was the most fucky year.
Well, mine was 2022, but it bled into
It was a
2023.
fuck year, and
Felt like
so
a decade.
yeah,
We're getting our shit
yeah.
together, and we're
2024 is good.
So I want you to come on in and join our Patreon. You can join for as little as $1 and still get great content.
Yeah,
And we have tiers for all budgets.
yeah.
But if all you can do to support the podcast is listen, hey, thank you very much. I appreciate you, and I love you, and I'll make it weird.
Love.
But that's all for now, so goodbye. Us on your social media platform of choice. Linktree/Cruelty has all of the links. Check out our Patreon for exclusive episodes, merch, ad-free episodes, live ghost hunts, and much more. Please be sure to subscribe. New episodes are uploaded weekly. Thank you so much. See you next time. Music and production by Willie B.